July 20, 2025. A Russian landing craft carrying 30 elite troops was just minutes away from reaching Ukraine's coast. Its mission still unknown, but one thing was certain: Ukraine had been watching. For 27 minutes, a Turkish-made Bayraktar TB2 drone had silently tracked the vessel from 20,000 feet, avoiding detection by Russian radar. Here's how Ukraine used one drone, one missile, and one critical decision to crush a covert Russian operation before it ever reached shore. In the pre-dawn silence over the Black Sea, nothing moves faster than information. For nearly half an hour, Ukrainian commanders have been watching a live feed, a heat signature crossing the water, slowly but purposefully. It's a Symbolic-class Russian landing craft, built for speed and stealth, and now just kilometers away from Ukrainian territory. The mission isn't public. It was never meant to be seen. But it was seen not by satellites, but by a tool that's become Ukraine's quiet force multiplier, the Bayraktar TB2. Unlike older drones used just for reconnaissance, this aircraft doesn't just watch. It decides when the watching ends and when the strike begins. From 20,000 feet, the TB2 tracks the vessel without being noticed. Russia's radar net, once feared, now shows cracks. Either it's too weak to detect the drone, or the drone is simply too quiet, too high and too well placed. Ukraine isn't just reacting anymore, it's anticipating. What makes this operation different isn't the hardware, it's the precision of the timing. Ukrainian intelligence knew when to deploy the drone, where to place it, and how long to wait. That means this vessel wasn't just spotted, it was expected. On board the Russian craft are 30 soldiers, but not infantry. These are likely specialists, reconnaissance units, saboteurs, or diversion teams. The Symbolic class is rarely used without a strategic objective. Their arrival would have triggered chaos inland, unless they never make it to shore. This moment, this hovering tension, is where modern warfare lives now. No gunfire, no shouting, just silent calculation from miles above. And in the next few seconds, someone will make a decision that rewrites what comes next. Not only for this mission, but for how Russia moves in these waters from now on. The Bayraktar TB2 isn't just a drone. It's a strategic shift born out of Turkey's ambition to rival American platforms like the Predator, the TB, to deliver something the battlefield increasingly demands: low-cost, high-endurance precision. On this mission, it launched at exactly 2 a.m. from a concealed Ukrainian site near Mykolaiv, entering hostile airspace with one objective: remain unseen. Its flight profile was deliberate. Cruising at just 70 knots, the TB2 appears slow, but that's the point. Its steady pace reduces heat signature and keeps its noise floor low. Powered by a lightweight Rotax 912 engine, the kind you'd find in a civilian ultralight aircraft, the drone was designed to whisper across the sky, not roar. For 27 hours, this machine can remain airborne. But in this mission, endurance wasn't about waiting. It was about positioning before daylight broke. Ukrainian operators mapped a path that zigzagged through known radar blind spots. Russian S-300 systems are deadly, but only if they can see the threat. The TB2 stayed at least 50 kilometers away, just outside their reach. It's not just stealthy, it's hard to see by design. The drone's radar cross-section is tiny, similar to that of a large bird. In the clutter of a low-altitude scan, it often doesn't register at all. That gave Ukraine the confidence to keep it hovering above the Symbolic-class vessel, uninterrupted for nearly half an hour. But what made this possible wasn't just the airframe, it was the eye. The TB2 carried a Westcam MX-15D optical suite. Built in Canada, its capabilities are extreme. High-resolution zoom that can read a license plate from 20 kilometers, plus infrared imaging that turns the sea into a glowing map of heat. The Sirena's engines lit up like a torch in the dark. This wasn't a blind strike. Every move the Russian vessel made, every change in speed, direction, or heat was being logged, watched and calculated. The TB2 isn't a weapon by itself. It's a scalpel held by an operator who knows exactly where to cut and when. At precisely 3 a.m. a sharp contrast appeared on the TB2's thermal display, a dense heat trace moving swiftly over cold. Water operators zoomed in. The outline, size, and propulsion pattern weren't hard to classify. It was a Cerna-class landing craft designed for high-speed coastal deployment, not for patrol duties. That immediately raised its profile as a priority target. What made the moment more critical came minutes later. Scanning the route ahead and behind, the drone picked up two additional heat plumes, identical in shape, moving on the same heading, spaced at calculated intervals. They were operating as a group. This wasn't an isolated vessel. It was a military package. These weren't escort ships or support boats. They were more Cerna-class landers, 3 of them closing in on Ukraine's coastline, with remarkable coordination. That detail alone changed the interpretation. This was a synchronized movement, likely timed to land troops at a specific window. Ukrainian analysts noted that this wasn't ad hoc. It was a prepared maneuver. Their direction told the rest of the story. The route pointed toward a sector 8 kilometers west of Kherson, an area previously flagged by Ukrainian intelligence. Intercepted signals, strange drone activity, and localized GPS interference. It wasn't just a beach, it was a potential breach point. Visual magnification added a final clue. Onboard shapes moved in tight formations. They weren't naval technicians or ship crews. They carried the posture and gear, profile of ground forces backpacks, helmets, combat vests. These were infantry, possibly recon units or saboteurs, meant to operate behind Ukrainian lines. At this stage, Ukraine didn't need to guess the outcome. If these soldiers reached land undetected, it could mean a new front emerging behind defensive lines. The time for surveillance was running out. The convoy wasn't slowing down, and neither was the decision-making process. In the command room, watching from afar, at 4 a.m. the order came through: engage. The decision was made by Ukraine's 383rd UAV Brigade, the nerve center, overseeing drone operations in the region. For nearly half an hour they'd watched in silence, weighing a critical risk. Striking now meant revealing their eyes in the sky, and possibly triggering Russian countermeasures. But letting the convoy land meant inviting chaos. Inland the risk was accepted. The TB2 began its final maneuver, a wide arc to position itself behind the convoy. This wasn't a dive and fire attack. It required geometry. The drone needed to maintain visual lock while aligning for a clean shot. Its weapon, a Turkish-made ML, a smart micro-munition with laser guidance, compact, accurate, and lethal at short range. Each drone carries 4 of them, but today one was enough at $70,000 per missile. This wasn't a weapon to waste. But as the operator locked onto the rear vessel, the presumed command unit, an alert flashed on screen. Laser malfunction. The targeting beam that guided the munition had failed. For a full minute, the drone hovered in silence. As the system was manually rebooted, at 4:47 the laser came back online. The operator wasted no time. Within seconds the missile dropped, a small blur against the sky, and struck the Cerna-class craft mid-deck. But what happened next was unexpected. Just over a second later, a secondary blast erupted from the vessel's center, far larger than the first. Flames burst upward, debris scattered across the water. Thermal imaging confirmed the anomaly. This wasn't just a fuel detonation or onboard ammunition cooking off. The heat spike was intense. Brief but blinding later, analysis revealed the presence of thermite-based demolition charges, the kind used not for defense, but for sabotage. These troops weren't just being deployed, they were carrying a mission to destroy infrastructure on land. That changed everything. What Ukraine had intercepted wasn't a generic landing force. It was a team of Russian special operators, likely Spetsnaz, equipped to disable bridges, communications, or energy systems deep in Ukrainian territory. The drone didn't just prevent a landing, It neutralized a sabotage operation before the first foot touched shore. Before the smoke even cleared, the remaining Russian vessels slammed into full throttle, veering sharply southeast, away from the Ukrainian coast and back toward Crimea. No attempt was made to regroup, retrieve survivors, or assess damage. The retreat wasn't tactical. It was panic. There was no need for a second strike. The fleeing vessels abandoned the mission entirely, confirming what Ukrainian intelligence had suspected. This was a single coordinated push, and its failure meant the entire operation collapsed. One drone, one missile, one decision, and an entire sabotage campaign unraveled in under an hour. This wasn't just a successful intercept, it was a clear message. Ukraine's surveillance and strike capabilities are no longer reactive, they are proactive, surgical and invisible until it's too late. And while no air raid sirens sounded, and no troops clashed on shore, the strategic weight of that night rippled far beyond the coastline. What made this victory possible wasn't firepower. It was restraint, the patience to wait for confirmation, the discipline to avoid early detection, and the confidence to strike at exactly the right moment. The payoff wasn't just in one destroyed vessel. It was in forcing Russia to fold, a play it hadn't even revealed yet. As the sun rose over the Black Sea, Ukraine had done more than repel an incursion. It had shown that the age of silent, precision warfare isn't coming. It's already here. And those who still rely on brute force are being outmaneuvered by pixels, satellites, and operators with nerves of steel. And if this operation proved anything, it's that decisive moves in silence can reshape entire regions. Just days before this strike, another confrontation was quietly unfolding on the other side of the world, in the Gulf of Aden, where Somali pirates massacre Navy against the US Navy. If you want to understand how modern powers are testing each other without firing a single shot, that's where you need to look next.